It's another Friday and you're logged on to Headlines Nigeria on ITI. From our studios in Abuja, I am Grace Ukot. We'll take a quick summary of what's making the news in our national dailies. Vanguard newspaper says Senators reps Lambast Obasanjo. Minority members of the House of Representatives yesterday said they were in agreement with former President Olusegun Obasanjo on his accusation that the National Assembly was corrupt. They, however, insisted that Obasanjo was their grandfather in corruption. Still in Vanguard newspaper, Vision 2020. Federal government requires 32 trillion naira. Vice President Sambo said yesterday that the first implementation plan of 4 years for the country's Vision 2020 would gulp a total of 32 trillion naira. And in Punch newspaper, Akingbola may spend 2 weeks in EFCC custody. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has secured a court order to detain a former Chief Executive Officer of Intercontinental Bank, Dr. Erastus Akingbola, for 2 weeks, pending the conclusion of his interrogation. And in Daily Trust newspaper, ICPC probes National Assembly after Obasanjo's accusations. The Independent Corrupt Practices Commission is to start investigations into the allegations of corruption leveled against National Assembly members by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And in next newspaper, we see government withdraws Ondo University's license. The federal government yesterday withdrew the operational license of the Ondo State University of Science and Technology, Okitipupa, in Ondo State, according to documents released in Abuja after an emergency meeting with the management of the National Universities Commission. The action was taken because of concerns about the school's academic performance and admission policies. Other news headlines include Nigerian Tribune strike, Daniel appeals to doctors. How Obasanjo used book launch to unite IBB Buhari is seen in This Day newspaper. Vanguard newspaper carries kidnapping. Lawyer makes case for state, local government police. And in Nigerian Tribune, we see lecturers threaten mass protests in Osun State. Politics news, Nigerian Compass. Jonathan will run on joint ticket with Sambo. Chairman of a pro-Jonathan group, Friends of Democracy, and special advisor to the President on National Assembly matters, Senator Mohammed Abaji, yesterday said that President Goodluck Jonathan would pick Vice President Sambo as running mate when he eventually declares to run next year. And in Vanguard newspaper, politics not a do-or-die affair, Sambo counsels politicians. Vice President Sambo yesterday reminded politicians that politics is not a do-or-die affair, but an avenue for the marketing of ideas and beliefs for national development. And in Punch newspaper, 2011, no amount is too much for INEC. Buhari, a former head of state, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, on Thursday said that no amount was too big for the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct free and fair elections in the country. Punch newspaper still, name change, AC partners with DPP, ANPP, others. The Action Congress on Thursday said it was partnering with the Democratic People's Party, the Integrity Group of the All Nigeria People's Party, and some members of the People's Democratic Party to form the Action Congress of Nigeria. Nigerian Tribune presidency, Shekarau declares interest, promises focused leadership. Governor Ibrahim Shekarau of Kano State on Thursday in Abuja formally declared his intention to contest the 2011 presidency under the All Nigeria People's Party, with a pledge to provide a focused leadership to tackle the challenges facing the country. And other political stories in our national dailies include Punch newspaper, zoning, PDP neck meets August 12. Guardian carries PDP governors on collision path over delegates. And also in Nigerian Tribune, PDP governors dare Nwodo. And now we'll move over to business news. Vanguard newspaper carries the story, Ikazabo replaces Okereke Onyuke as NSE boss. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, yesterday named Emmanuel Ikazabo as the Interim Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to replace Professor Ndi Okereke Onyuke, who was fired on Wednesday. This Day newspaper, SEC, why we struck. Director General Securities and Exchange Commission, Ms. Aruma Ote, yesterday declared that the removal of the Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Professor Ndi Okereke-Onyeke, was in the best interest of the capital market and investors. Still in this day newspaper, PIB, federal government resolves fiscal terms with oil firms. There is an indication that the federal government may have resolved the controversial provisions of the Petroleum Industry Bill with the local and multinational oil companies operating in the country. And Vanguard newspaper, neglect of real sector ruined Nigeria, says Sanusi. Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, yesterday traced the country's descent to economic oblivion to the neglect of the real sector and the adoption of the Structural Adjustment Program by the federal government in 1986. And now we'll move over to sports news. Nigerian Compass, Falconets keeper speaks on shaky performance against Germany. National Under-20 female goalkeeper Alaba Jonathan has said although she had a good tournament in Germany, she was conscious of the dreadful attack of the German side during the World Cup final. Next newspaper, former internationals unite for Federation elections. The forthcoming elections into the board of the Nigeria Football Federation has become a rallying point for former Nigerian players to unite for the development of the game in the country. And in Punch newspaper, Akingbola will win Super 4 Unwanel. Akingbola assistant coach Samson Unwanel is confident his team will maintain their bright start at the 2010 Nigeria Premier League Super 4 to win the title. Other sports headlines in our national dailies include Osaze set to miss South Korea clash. This is seen in Punch newspaper. And in Nigerian Compass, Pillars Sunshine open day 2 at Super 4. And NBA stars arrive for BWB stopover. That's also seen in Punch newspaper. And with this, we wrap up today's edition of Headlines Nigeria. Have a lovely weekend. Thanks for logging on.